On today's episode of the Cryptoverse, inflation, deflation, and how the amount of Bitcoin is scarcer than we think. TunnelBear is the simple VPN app that makes it easy to browse the web privately and enjoy a more open and secure internet experience. Try TunnelBear for free by checking out the link in the video description below. Hi there guys, and welcome to the latest episode of the Cryptoverse, your regular dose of news and commentary on Bitcoin, cryptocurrencies, and blockchains. I am your host, Chris Coney. So let's get into today's news. So can you believe it? We turn once again to Bitcoin.com. This is my favorite article of the day, and it's entitled, "The Amount of Bitcoin is Scarcer Than We Think." And would you believe it? It's from Jamie Redman again. It's probably my favorite writer at Bitcoin.com. Now, this article deals with a very fundamental concept in economics, inflation and deflation. So the question is, which one is good and which one is bad? Well, if you take them literally, say we were throwing a party and we had some balloons. Now, before the party, inflation would be good and deflation would be bad because we're trying to decorate the room, right? And then when the party's over, deflation would be good and inflation would be bad because the balloons are difficult to store if they're inflated. So in an absolute sense, inflation and deflation both serve an equally valuable purpose. And more importantly, they each serve their purpose at different times. And that's how we determine whether they're good or bad. It's all based on timing. And this is particularly important right now because the United States government and the Federal Reserve Bank are desperately trying to prevent deflation. Okay, so now I've set the philosophical sail, let's get into this article. So I scroll down a bit here. It begins by saying Bitcoin is scarcer than we think. As most look at the current distribution at close to 16 million Bitcoins released so far. However, far fewer Bitcoins are actually accessible. Many people don't account for the thousands missing, some of them burnt, and wallet stashes that may never be spent. So this problem exists in the fiat world too. I mean, we don't really know how much paper cash is out there, do we? Some people may have set fire to a bunch of paper money, for all we know anyway, and a bunch more may be hidden under someone's mattress, which by the way wouldn't be such a bad idea if the next financial crisis hits. But then the next bit in orange that I've highlighted here, under the heading of missing hard drives, faulty upgrades, and lost paper wallets, the orange bit that I've highlighted here says there will only be 21 million Bitcoins, and more than 2/3 of those have already been distributed to the public. However, most people don't take into consideration that many of those Bitcoins have either been lost or purposely discarded. Now, this may make me seem anal, but I don't care, because my attention to detail is what allows me to communicate concepts so clearly. The Bitcoins themselves are not lost. We can see them on the blockchain. We can see all the public addresses, and we can see the balances inside each one. So all those Bitcoins are still there, sitting on the blockchain, the same as every other Bitcoin, just waiting for a signed transaction so that they can change from one owner to another. But in order to create those signed transactions, the owner needs to have their private key. And that's the thing we're talking about. So let's move on here so I can illustrate. The yellow bit says, for instance, in November of 2013, the media had reported on a man who had lost 7,500 Bitcoins in a landfill. James Howells is one of many who have lost thousands of Bitcoins by accident. There we go again. If we're talking about gold coins, then yes, you could lose 7,500 of them in a landfill because they physically exist. But the Bitcoins are not in the landfill. The Bitcoins are on the blockchain. They're always on the blockchain and will always be on the blockchain. You can't actually remove them. So what this guy will have done is lost the private key which controls 7,500 Bitcoins. And I can prove that that the Bitcoins themselves were not lost, because if I had a copy of his private key, or if I had a copy of his recovery key, I'd be able to gain access to those 7,500 Bitcoins and transfer them. So a Bitcoin is never lost. We know exactly where it is. It's always on the blockchain, so they're never lost. It's just a question of whether we have control over them or not. Now let's jump further down a bit to the green bear here. Under the heading of coins on hold, it says, there's also a vast amount of coins that are not being spent at present, but could still be spent in the future. For instance, Satoshi's, he's talking about Satoshi Nakamoto, Satoshi's stash has been sitting for years, and it is the largest amount of BTC, Bitcoin, held by any one entity. People assume that these coins will never be spent, but in reality, Satoshi could choose to use those at any time, and that's a significant amount of Bitcoin. Now again, this is the same in the fiat currency system. There's a vast amount of fiat currency that is not being spent because it's in savings accounts, but that could still be spent at any time, right? The difference, of course, is that fiat currency loses value when new money is created. And because there's no limit to how much fiat currency can be created, there's no limit to how far the value can fall. Now, you could say that the limit is zero, but currencies never really reach zero. They just have a 1 on the end of an increasing number of decimal places. And theoretically, the gradual creation of new Bitcoins should also have the same kind of effect. And the fact that Bitcoin's price keeps going up is actually a testament to its growing popularity. Because all things being equal, the creation of new Bitcoins through the mining process should be causing the price to go down because more of them are being created. But let's get back to the article here. In the blue bit, it says there are many addresses within the Bitcoin rich list that have not spent their coins in quite some time. Alongside this, many in the Bitcoin space are hoarding their BTC, speculating that the price will rise exponentially in a few years. These coins, although not lost, add to scarcity temporarily, and no one knows when they will move. Okay, let me tell you how I do this. My Bitcoin holdings fall into 3 buckets. So bucket number 1 is my hoarding bucket. I store these Bitcoins in blockchain.info in a wallet, which I have a backup of, and I put that backup in a physical stainless steel wallet called a CryptoSteel. So this is a physical and virtually indestructible wallet that is storing my private key. So that Bitcoin is my scaredy cat money. Yeah, that's totally safe. So bucket number 2 is my savings bucket, and I store these in Magna, M-A-G-N-R. Now I'm giving them custody of my Bitcoins, so I'm taking on a bit of risk there, but I'm doing that in order to earn 2.3% interest per year on the Bitcoin that I've got deposited. So that's fair enough. I'm consciously choosing to take risk, and in exchange for that risk, I'm being rewarded with 2.3% extra Bitcoin per year, and I'm happy to do that. And then bucket 3 is what I'll call my active bucket. So these are all the wallets I use like normal bank accounts. You know, my income goes into them, and I buy stuff out of them, and so on and so forth. So they're very active. Now what's crazy is that you can do all of this with the existing financial system, except for bucket number 1, where your money is totally under your control. I guess the closest you could get to that would be stuffing physical cash under your mattress. That would be kind of like bucket 1. That would be currency that I personally have control over. So let's move on here onto this heading called Only 21 Million Bitcoins or Even Scarcer. I've highlighted this bit in purple here that says, with only 21 million Bitcoins available ever, many believe its scarcity and deflationary aspects are promising. So inflation is when prices are going up, meaning a $100 bill buys you fewer and fewer groceries over time because the prices are going up, right? And deflation is when prices are going down, meaning a $100 bill buys you more and more groceries as time goes on. So that's what we mean when we say purchasing power. So the value on the front of the bill stays the same. it still says $100. But how much stuff you can exchange it for fluctuates. And the same goes for Bitcoins. While we know that creating new money does reduce our purchasing power, the difference with Bitcoin is that we know exactly what the rate of creation is, and we know exactly where the limit is and when the creation of new money will stop. We know it's going to be at 21 million Bitcoins. Now that has to be one of the biggest advantages over the central banking model. With the Federal Reserve, we have absolutely no bloody idea what mood they're going to be in next month. And we simply can't run our financial lives waiting for this very small group of people to decide the fate of the world's financial system. They don't deserve that kind of power, and now we have the choice to take it away. So thanks for joining me today, guys. If you disliked this video, hit the dislike button. If you liked it, hit the like button, leave me a comment below with some feedback, and get subscribed. Or even consider supporting me directly by going to cryptoversity.com/podcast and sending me a Bitcoin tip to the address on that page. If you would like to support me without actually spending any money, click on the Steam It logo. Vote for this episode on the Steam network. That will get me some cryptocurrency without you having to spend a penny. If you're the kind of person that would prefer something physical in exchange for your donation, then go over to the Cryptoversity store and buy yourself a t-shirt with the Cryptoversity branding on it. That kind of thing helps me out a lot. Or if you'd like more structured information on Bitcoin, cryptocurrencies and blockchains, head over to the courses section and buy yourself an online course. But that's all for today. I'll be back tomorrow with you with more news and commentary on Bitcoin, cryptocurrencies and blockchains. And until then, it's me, Chris Coney, saying bye for now.